Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari And Yashodanandana Braja Jana Randana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padadikacharya Ashtotar Tata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padadikacharya Ashtotar Tata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavina Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So I'm going to chant a couple of verses, introductory verses. You may not know what they are. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadirit. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Yuttama Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 On this 9th day of March 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, entitled The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 11. Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj to stop fighting. Text number 1. Maitreya Uvacha Nishamya Gaditam Evam Vishinam Dhanushi Dhruvaha Sandadhe Stramupasprishya Yan Narayana Nirmitam Maitreya Uvacha Nishamya Gaditam Evam Vishinam Dhanushi Duva Sandade Stram Upaspishya Yan Narayana Nirmitam Maitreya Uvacha Nishamya Gaditam Evam Vishinam Dhanushi Duva Sandade Stram Upaspishya Yan Narayana Nirmitam. Maitreya Vacha Nishamya Gadatam Eva Vishinam Dhanushi Duva Sandade Stram Upaspishya Yan Narayana Nirmitam. Paulina. Maitreya Vacha Nishamya Gaditam Evam Vishinam Dhanushi Duva Sandate Stram Upaspishya Yan Narayana Nirmitam. Lord? Maitreya Uvacha Nishamya Gaditam Evam Vishinam Dhanushi Dhruva Sandade Stram Upaspishya Yan Narayana Nirmitam. Go ahead, Glenn. Maitreya Uvacha Nishamya Gadatam Eva Vishinam Dhanushi Dhruva Sandade Stram Upaspishya Yan Narayana Nirmitam. Maitreya Vacha Nishamya Gadatam Evam Vishinam Dhanushi Dhuva Sandade Stram Upaspishya Yan Narayana Nirmitam. What about meanings? Maitreya Uvacha. The sage Maitreya continued to speak. Nishamya, having heard. Gadatam, the words. Evam, thus. Vishinam, of the sages. Dhanushi, upon his bow. Dhruva, Dhruva Maharaj. Sandadhe, fixed. Astram, an arrow. Upaspishya, after touching water. Yat, that which. Narayana, by Narayana. Nirmitam, was made. Translation. Sri Maitreya said, My dear Vidura, when Dhruva Maharaj heard the encouraging words of the great sages, he performed the Achman by touching water, and then took up his arrow made by Lord Narayan and fixed it upon his bow. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj had been given a specific arrow made by Lord Narayan himself, and he now fixed it upon his bow to finish the illusory atmosphere created by the yakshas. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Mam eva ye pabadyante mayam etang tarantite. Without Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one is able to overcome the action of the illusory energy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also given us a nice weapon for this age, as stated in the Bhagavatam, Sangopang Astra. In this age, the Narayan Astra, or weapon to drive away Maya, is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in pursuance of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, such as Dravida Prabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar, and Shrivas. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So we require a little backstory here so that we can understand what's going on. So just quickly to summarize the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Prabhupada calls him Maharaj even when he was just a little boy, but he's now truly a Maharaj. So when Dhruva appeared right near the beginning of this universe, his father was Uttanapada. And Uttanapada had one brother, Priyavrata, and they were both Uttanapada and Priyavrata were both sons of Swayambhuva Manu, who was one of the sons of Brahma, who was meant to propagate the universe. So Brahma is the first living being in the universe. So he's right near the beginning of the universe, in the Satya Yuga. So Uttanapada was a very virtuous king. But he had two wives, and one of whom was his favorite, the younger, more beautiful one, named Suruchi. Suruchi means very beautiful. Dhruva's mother, and he was the elder, Dhruva's mother was Suniti, which means very, very virtuous. But the king had grown more fond of Suruchi, and he had one son by Suruchi named Uttama. So the whole pastime begins when the king is in his kingdom on his throne. He's sitting there, and Uttama is playing on his father's lap, and Suruchi is there, but Suniti is not. She's in her own quarters, which is some distance away. So Dhruva wants to get up on the lap and play with his father and his brother, but Suruchi says, "No, you can't get on the lap, because you haven't taken your birth from my womb. You have to go and pray to God, find God, and then pray to get, and then you'll be able to," like that. So the whole thing was instigated because Suruchi wanted her son, who was younger, to inherit the kingdom. So she's trying to disengage Dhruva. And Uttanapada, the king, didn't say anything because he was under the control of Suruchi at that time. So Dhruva, he's got the Kshatriya spirit. His very name Dhruva means very fixed and determined. That's what Dhruva means. So he went out, stormed out. 5 years old. He stormed out of the courtroom there. The king's court, and he went to find his mother, who's also somewhere in the palace, but off in a corner somewhere. And so he found her in her humble quarters, and he told her what happened. And she sympathized. She embraced him, took him on her lap and everything, and said, "Well, Suruchi is actually right. Is that the only remedy is you have to get the mercy of God." And it's not in the Bhagavatam, but Prabhupada adds this little part that Dhruva asked, "Well, where can I find him?" And she said, "Well, I have heard that the great sages find God in the forest." So off he goes to the forest. He's just 5 years old. Now Narada Muni heard this. Now Narada Muni comes in every canto. Narada Muni is one of the most prominent sage. He's known as Devarshi, means the sage amongst the gods. He's not an ordinary living being. He can go anywhere he wants, including Vaikuntha. But his whole mission is to deliver bhakti to any soul that he sees an opportunity to. He delivers the hunters, and he delivers Vyasadeva and everyone, from top to bottom. So here he sees Dhruva. He's very determined. And he's going to try to give him bhakti. So he intercepts him before he gets into the forest, and he finds out, he says, "This is very good that you're determined to do this, but you're kind of young, Why don't you go back home sometime, and then you're more mature, I'll teach you all about the process of yoga." So Dhruva says, "Thank you very much, O great sage, but I'm determined to go somehow or other to find God in the forest." So Narada, seeing the determination, even though he's 5 years old, and of course we already have experience where we know about Prahlad Maharaj will appear in the 7th canto, this is the 4th canto, that even at 5, they can be great devotees, not controlled by age. So he gives him a process of yoga which is very, very austere, but it's all intermixed with bhakti. So he tells him, "Well, you perform all kinds of austerities, which I'll mention in a few minutes. But as you do that, you chant the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He's chanting the holy name. and you meditate on the Lord in the heart. And he describes in detail the super soul in the heart, as a meditation. And you perform rudimentary deity worship. There's 7 kinds of deities. One is in the mind, one is in the paint, one is in the wood, and so forth, stone. But also, if you're in the forest, you can make a deity if you're by a river, by the mud there, a little humble deity, worship it, and then at the end of the day you dissolve it again. Next morning you make a new one. That's completely bona fide and authorized. So he had the rudimentary deity worship, he had the chanting of the holy name, he had the meditation on Vishnu, and meanwhile he's performing these extreme austerities. Like the first month he only ate the fruits that fell from the tree, and the second month he didn't eat any fruits, he just ate the leaves. And then after that he just stopped eating at all, he's just breathing. And then he was just slowing his breathing down till he's breathing once every minute, once every hour, once every day, like that. So in a few months, he's extreme. And meanwhile, I think he's standing on one leg, if I'm not mistaken. So he's performing these extreme austerities and meditating on Vishnu. He's becoming very powerful and potent. And so much so that his slow breathing, he had entrained the universal breathing, so the gods couldn't breathe either. They're feeling suffocated. So they go to Vishnu and they say, please do something. So Lord Vishnu comes down to Dhruva in the forest on the back of Garuda. And he's meditating in the heart, and suddenly his meditation breaks. He opens his eyes, and there's his worshipful Lord right in front of him. And so he goes into all this ecstasy. He's rolling on the ground and crying, and it describes how he's devouring, licking up the lotus feet of the Lord, everything. And then he wants to offer prayers, but he's only 5 years old. He hasn't even begun to study Sanskrit. But Vishnu touches him with the conch. He has the 4 different syllables: the conch, the lotus, the club, and the chakra. So he takes the conch and touches him on the head, and suddenly he's inspired to offer these wonderful prayers. And one of them I memorized, and the other one is not in the Bhagavatam. I also memorized it. Prabhupada would quote all the time. The main prayer is, and it shows the evolution of his consciousness and his desire. Because after all, it was kind of a childish thing. He wanted to have a kingdom. Now that he couldn't, he was prevented from getting on the lap. Well, I'll show them. I'll have a kingdom greater than my great-grandfather's. His great-grandfather is Brahma. And his kingdom lasts over 300 trillion years. So what's this petty kingdom, even though it's Satya Yuga, you know what I'm saying? So that was his desire. It was kind of a childish thing, but that was so that was the reason he went out in the forest. But by the time he saw Vishnu and been purified by the process of devotion, he didn't care a fig for that kingdom. So he has this prayer, this famous prayer. It's in another Purana. Stana bilashi tapasi stitoham tvam praptavan deva munindra guyam kacham vichindvan abhidivyaratnam svaman kratartos mivarandayache. So what that means is that stani is I was longing for a position, a situation in this world greater than my great-grandfather, Stana bilashi. And therefore, tapasistitoham, I was situated in extreme austerity and penance. Tapasistitoham. But now I've gotten you, Tvam Praptavan. He's speaking directly to Vishnu. Tvam Praptavan, who are Devam and Indraguyam, hidden away even from the greatest gods and sages. They can't find you. If they can, they can see you in their heart, but they can't see you outside. That's a higher realization. So now I realize, Kacham Bachinban, I was looking for broken glass. My great kingdom, I wanted, was no more valuable than broken glass compared to this divine jewel, gem of your darshan and your presence and your grace. And therefore, my Lord Swamin Kratartam, I don't beg you for anything. I'm completely satisfied just seeing you and serving you. That was his evolution. And he had another prayer that's in the Bhagavatam. What did he pray for? When the Lord comes, you have to request something. All right, it's not going to be material, but so what he requested for was association of the great devotees. Bhakti mahu bhavahatam tvahime pasango bhuyadananda mahatam amalashayanam yenanja sobana madhu vesanam bhavabdim neshe bhavadgunakatam atapana matta. He says, my dear Lord, please give me the association of your devotees in whose hearts their love for you is flowing like a powerful river. Pravahatam tvahime Mahatam Amala Ashyanam, and hearts are completely pure. Amala Ashyanam. Because by their association, what will I have? I'll have your Krishna Katha, pure talks and sound vibrations about you. and by which I will be able to cross over this material world, which is like an ocean full of blazing fire-like dangers, because I'm becoming mad to hear your talks about you. So that's the prayer. So what happens is then Narada comes back and he invites him, well, come back to the kingdom. Actually, no, Vishnu says, all right, I fulfill all your desires, but you have to take the kingdom. You have to, rule the kingdom now, even because you wanted it. So it's Satya Yuga. That means 36,000 years he's going to be the king, which he really didn't want, but he did it as a matter of duty because Vishnu asked him. So he's come back now. This was two chapters ago. We went through the last chapter very quickly. There's not many purports. And he takes over the king. His father retires. Describes that for a minute, for a few verses. And then what happens is, in the course of his ruling, his brother, Uttama, goes out hunting. He's grown up now. He goes out hunting, practicing archery. And he gets killed by the Yakshas. The Yakshas are the descendants of Kuvera, but they're kind of low class, hunters and things. And so they killed him and probably, took his jewels or something, So Dhruva was furious, and he goes out to find the Yakshas. So there's a battle, and in the course of the battle, the Yakshas were losing. And when these Yakshas and other beings like them, they have mystic power, but they don't have much virtue. You know what I mean? They can develop power without virtue. So as they're losing, they cast all of these illusions, mountains falling from the sky, and trunks of bodies and all kinds of obnoxious things to bewilder Dhruva, which he was. He was bewildered, but they're all illusory. It looks like it's happening, but it's not. But it's very realistic, and so that's why it's called the illusory energy. That's one aspect. So what happened is that Dhruva is kind of paralyzed, but then the sages come down and encourage him. It says, just chant the name. So this is the first verse of this new chapter. So Dhruva Maharaj has not begun fighting again, which he'll start fighting and killing all the Yakshas. But here, this verse is about the power of the holy name. And so he performed Ashman and then took up arrow made by Lord Narayan, fixed it upon his bow. Now Prabhupada speaks about the holy name here. He had been given a specific arrow made by Narayan Astra, and fixed it upon his bow to finish the illusory atmosphere created by the Gitas. Now, Prabhupada immediately invokes the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter, this verse is a famous verse, where Krishna tells Arjuna, Daivi yeshu gunamayi, mama maya adoratya. Notice that word maya is there. That this divine, this material energy of mine, composed of the three modes, most of you have read the three modes of nature, is my divine energy. And so no one can cross beyond it by their own efforts. Mama maya duratya means very, very difficult, impossible to cross beyond. But one who surrenders unto me, which Prabhupada quotes here, one who surrenders unto me easily crosses beyond it. Because it's Krishna's maya. And she's serving him. And when he just says, okay, withdraw now, this person is now worshipping me, now withdraw your illusory energy. And so the surrender to Krishna, without Narayan, the Supreme Lord, no one is able to overcome the action of the illusory energy. So where do we find Narayan? We can't find Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, But Prabhupada says, Lord Chaitanya has also given us a nice weapon for this age, as stated in Bhagavatam, Sango Pangastra. So what he's referring there is to a verse in the 11th canto, that a very important verse that describes the avatar of Lord Chaitanya as the avatar for this age of Kali, because there was a lot of resistance to that, because it's understood that Krishna doesn't appear in this age because it's too fallen. People in this age, they don't live very long, they're misguided, not very clean. Truthfulness is being destroyed, so he doesn't come. But it says elsewhere that he comes in a hidden incarnation. In other words, he doesn't carry those four symbols of Vishnu, and unlike Krishna himself, he doesn't, kill a lot of demons in the most amazing ways. So obviously, that he's God, but he does come, and that's the verse in this 11th canto. So what's that verse? This is in the beginning of 11th canto, when these 9 Yogendras, who are the very exalted sons of Rishabdev, they're having a meeting with this king, this very pious king named Videha or Nimi, And he's asking him all kinds of questions. And one of the questions was, well, what are the different avatars? How do they appear? And when he gets to Kali Yuga, this is the verse describing Lord Chaitanya. And it says, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yagyar Sankitana Praya Yajantihi Sumedasam. So here's the description. Krishna Varnam. Now Krishna Varnam can mean different things. One of the things that he belongs to the category of Krishna. Another is that he's always chanting the syllables, Varna, Krishna, Krishna, as in Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So this is predicting Lord Chaitanya. And Trisha Akrishnam, but his complexion is not blackish like Krishna's. Rather, that means it's golden. He has a golden avatar. And then the line Prabhupada quotes, Sango Pangastra. So that's a combination of words. In Sanskrit, it's a very scientifically constructed language. So this is a combination of several words. Sa, Anga, Upanga, and Astra. So Sa Anga means with his limbs or his immediate associates, like Nityananda and Advaita and Gadadhar and Srivas, like that. And his Upa Angas means those who are a little bit outside, but still very close to Lord Chaitanya. You read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see a whole list of devotees who are they participated with Lord Chaitanya, in his Leela, but they're not quite as close. And then it says Upa Anga and his Astra. Astra is weapons. Now, where's Lord Chaitanya's weapons? He's standing there with open hands, So he's obviously not going to kill anybody. But his astra is, in this age, the Narayan astra, or weapon to drive away the Maya, is the chanting of a Hare Krishna mantra, the holy names. Why is that? Well, it's said that in previous ages, the demons appeared, just like you read Krishna book or you read the 10th canto. That's about the Dwarka Leela, the Dwapara Yuga. So you had, out and out demons through and through, like Kamsa and Jarasandha. And even earlier, you had Ravana, and Hiranyakashipu. And so they're through and through like villains, And then you have great saints and sages, who are appealing to Krishna, and he comes and kills them. But in this age, where are the great saints and sages? And where are even the demons are not very powerful. And oftentimes they have some redeeming qualities. The point is that it's mixed up. In everyone's heart, there's a demonic side and there's a saintly side. And so Lord Chaitanya comes, and with the holy name, if you accept it, and you chant it with some faith, it kills the demonic side, and it become more and more saintly, more and more Krishna conscious. So to drive away the Maya. So the illusion, the whole idea is that Krishna's Maya energy is what, and her thankless task, is to keep us in illusion. What's that illusion? I am this body, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, there's no God, or I'm a God, or I can become God, all kinds of illusions like that. And in that illusory consciousness, you forget Krishna, you compete against Krishna, and do all kinds of demonic things. But it's not our natural state. We're naturally devotees of Krishna. That's our real state. That's what we're part and parcel of Krishna. So the weapon of Hare Krishna, chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in pursuance of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, like Advaita, Nityananda, Srivas, that's the Anga and Upanga, is the process for this age. Yag is the second half of the verse. Yagyar Sankirtana Praya Yajantihi Sumedasa. One who is intelligent. That's the key. You have to be receptive to it and be a little reflective and come in touch with the genuine devotees and the genuine message. And that's what Srila Prabhupada came to give. Give himself, his own association, and to make others who could also be good association, train them, and to give the books, which we're reading his books right now. Everyone knows he gave an ocean of books, and they're still coming, in pursuance of his message. So that gives us a chance to chant Hare Krishna purely enough to have the illusory energy dissipated, at least for some time, so we get a glimpse of the truth. But it's a long, hard slog, because we've been in this material world so long, and so we're so conditioned that we have habituated to getting into the modes again. So that's where the sadhana comes in, and the rules and regulations. But it's all to our benefit. It's just like someone who's diseased, that you go to the doctor and he says, well, here's what you got to do. Here's, you have to eat, you have to give up eating this and take this medicine and do this treatment and so forth. So you have a choice. If you want to get cured, you have to surrender to the discipline, which may not be, and probably isn't very, very pleasing. So you can say, well, the heck with it, I'm just going to try to enjoy it, but then you suffer. So that's your choice. That's exactly our choice. We're in a diseased condition, and that condition is a deluded condition of who we are and who's in control, if there's any control, and all kinds, 1,000,001 different kinds of illusory ideas we can have. So the hard part first is finding a proper source of knowledge. That has been taken care of by Prabhupada, and his descendants. He's given us the knowledge, which is really essential. And as human beings, other lower species of life, they can't take advantage of the knowledge or the chanting or anything. They're naturally going to come up, and eventually become human beings. But we have that choice and that opportunity. So we should, as I usually say, we should take advantage of the time. As you get older, you realize time's running out, in this body. So don't think that, who knows how old we are. You don't really know how close you are to leaving this body. So just like there are so many instructions in the Shastra and so many examples of devotees who immediately, took advantage of the instruction. I think of Krishna's Kaviraj. You may remember he had a dream. He was a Vaishnav, and he was living at home. His brother was there, and maybe his parents. And he was a follower of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. But his brother had no faith in Lord Nityananda, only Lord Chaitanya. It's a little harder because Lord Nityananda is avadut. He does things that are somewhat shocking. When you read, when he came to Navadvip, he joined Lord Chaitanya in his Sankirtan movement when he started the Sankirtan movement. And then, this was before he was married, he would show up in Lord Chaitanya's place. And Lord Chaitanya at that time had a school, he had I think his first wife, I forget, maybe his second wife. But he was, proper householder. He had his mother there and everything. And, but Lord Chaitanya would show up completely naked. What is this? And he would take the role of this little child, and be fed by, I always forget it was Narayani Srivastakra's niece, I think, like that. And that's just one of the things he would do. So it wasn't so obvious that he was, Balaram in incarnation. So anyway, Krishna's Kaviraj's brother didn't have faith in Nityananda. And one of Nityananda's close associates, Miniketan Ramdas, I always remember because he was a flute player. I used to play the flute. And he came and he was, doing a little bit avadutish stuff at Krishna's Kaviraj. When someone would bow down, he would sometimes get on the back, and like that. But then when he heard that something that maybe Krishna's Kaviraj's brother had said, he became very upset. He broke his flute, and he went away, upset, and he had been offended. So Krishna's Kaviraj chastised his brother. He says, if you have faith in Lord Chaitanya but no faith in Nityananda, it's like half-hen logic. And this is a very important concept for us. Half-hen logic, which is something so obvious in Bengali culture, that when it's mentioned in the text of the CC, it's not even explained. Prabhupada, because he was speaking to the Westerners when he was translating, but somehow this one he didn't think it needed to be explained because it was so obvious. Everyone knows what half-hen logic is, right? Right? Does anyone know? Anyway, so I put a little footnote in there. What it means is that there was once a foolish farmer who had a very prolific hen who was giving a lot of eggs, which is what he wanted from the egg. But he had to feed this hen, He had to feed him, grain, whatever else it was. So he was very thinking, I got it figured out. I got a good calculation. I'll just cut off the head where I have to feed, and I'll just save the back where I get the eggs. That way I'll get more profit. Pretty smart, huh? So of course the hen died, didn't get any eggs. So the idea is that it's usually applied to the Shastra, that you have to accept the whole Shastra. You can't pick and choose the parts that you like and follow those and ignore the others and deny the others. You don't get the result then. Then the whole thing becomes spoiled. So similarly, in this case, if you have faith in Lord Chaitanya, who beloved brother in arms with Nityananda, You can't expect to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, which is Krishna, if you have no respect for Nityananda. And if you read the Chaitanya Bhagavat, you'll find out Nityananda really is an incarnation of Balaram, and his glories there. But you remember Balaram also he liked the Varuni beverage, right? So sometimes he would seemed to be a little intoxicated. That's why you notice when Balaram kills the demon, like Dhenukasura or Pralambasura, at first he doesn't do anything. What's going on? And then he realizes, boom, and then powerfully, even Rukmi. Anyway, it's the whole thing. You read the Krishna book with that in mind, you see. So anyway, the point is that this Hare Krishna mantra, which we're all familiar with to some extent, and we're chanting, this is the weapon that for this age we have, and it's very effective and so simple. There's no restrictions. This is Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Anytime, any place, anyone can chant Hare Krishna and benefit from it. But the task is to chant purely, to get the real result. Now, the wonderful thing is that negating the influence of material energy, or especially negating your previous karma, comes as the first installment. You just chant one name, even without much faith, and so much karma is eradicated. You may not even know it. We're kind of riding, unbeknownst, on this whole river of karma, things that we've done in previous life. And if we don't do anything, it may carry us here and there, and we don't know what's going to happen. Why me? Why did I come down with this disease? Why did I get this accident? Or why suddenly did I win the lottery? Who knows? All these things are happening from previous activities. So as soon as you begin chanting, eons of lives of karma is eradicated. That's in the Shastra again and again. But that's not the fruit. That's not the ultimate fruit. That's like the beginning benefit, which is fabulous. But it's not the real fruit, which is love of God. And to get prema, you have to chant purely. And that's why we have these 10 offenses, and it's so important. It's not so easy, because we're so habituated to our, mayic things. But it is possible. And that if we take shelter of the holy name, then we find the protection also. Because that's part of what Krishna does. He protects his devotees. Now, it may not be so obvious, because you still may come down with a disease and this and that. But what he's protecting, I just heard this on a tape yesterday, he's protecting your consciousness, so that whatever happens in this lifetime, you'll be a devotee. You may just do 5% in this lifetime and then stop. But the next lifetime you get a human body, you'll start at 6%. But we shouldn't prolong the agony, because it doesn't mean birth and death and disease. Who wants that? So we should try as hard as possible to advance as far as possible in this lifetime. But we have the means, the chanting, and Prabhupada uses this wonderful thing, because Dhruva is dissipating the illusion with the Narayana Astra. So we have that Narayana Astra. It's the Hare Krishna mantra. It acts as a weapon to destroy the illusory energy that's acting on us, so we can see the truth, we can understand who we are, we can understand the goal of life, we can understand how to get to it. There's a beautiful Ashtaka, 8 verses about the holy name by Rupa Goswami. And one of those verses, he describes the name like the sun coming out in the sky. And he says, Yada baso pyudyan kapalita bhavadvanta vibhavo Visham tat vandhanam abhidashati bhakti pranahinim janastasya datam jagati bhagavan nama tadane yatite krityam haditam. I forget the last line. I don't know how I forgot that. Anyway, I know the meaning. So he says, O son of the holy name, nama tadane, yada baso, even a little reflection, just like when the dawn comes. We get up early enough. Like now we're going to have tomorrow, starting the daylight savings. So it's going to be darker in the mornings now and lighter in the evenings. But so you may get to see the dawn, and so it's completely dark, and then gradually the sky gets lighter. The sun is not over the horizon yet, but you can see it happening. So this is nama bhas. This is the reflection of the pure chanting. But even that lights up the whole sky, and dissipates the darkness. So this verse says that, imagine you're in the forest of the material world. That's another analogy. Usually it's also an ocean, difficult place. Forest, so many dangers, and you don't know where to go. So you're in this forest, you're suffering. So this in the night, middle of the night, no moon. Then the sun comes up, and suddenly you see, oh, there's the path out of the forest. Oh, thank you, sun. And you're able to get out. So that's what he's describing it. That this holy name, even just namabhas, not pure chanting, illuminates the path out of the holy name and gives you the means to go. And so, and then in the final stage, it gives you pure love of God. So who could possibly adequately glorify you or describe your glories? This is in one verse, he says. So that's been given to us. Now there's another verse, and I'll share this with you, and then I think we'll have to, if there's any questions. This is a beautiful verse that's in the Padyavali. Padyavali is a large anthology. There's almost 400 verses there, which are favorites of Rupa Goswami, is nectar file, and a few of them are by him, but most of them are not. They're by different devotees. And this one, I forget who wrote it, but it was quoted by Haridas Thakur, Namacharya, in the CC, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's there's this discussion on the holy name with Raghunath Das, who was not a Goswami yet. He was just a boy, but he was a great devotee still at that stage. And his father and uncle. His father was Govardhan Majumdar, and his uncle was Hiranya Majumdar. Hiranya means gold. Very wealthy family. But they were devotees. And so they gathered together. Haridas had visited them, to hear the glories of the holy name. So there was also one of their employees there who was what is called a Smarta Brahmin. Now this kind of it's an interesting name because in English, of course, Smarta means you're intelligent. But Smarta means not too smart, meaning that you're too much attached to the smritis, the technicalities of the Shastra, and not the Bhaktivedanta, the end of the Shastra. So this fellow was proud of his knowledge. Usually they're very proud of all the technicalities. And he wasn't a bhakta. And so, but what was he? He was an employee who was collecting taxes and this and that. So he was there at the meeting. And Haridas said just what I said, that even once chanting the holy name, even without faith, without great faith, liberates you. You get liberated from all of this karma, and it's a kind of liberation. So he challenged Haridas. That can't be true, because for the Smarta Brahmins and others who just know the externals of the Shastra, liberation is a great jewel to be coveted, and it's very, very difficult to attain. We just had the Kumbh Mela, like 50 million, 60 million, it's like biggest that I've ever heard, in Allahabad, Prayag. And the main reason people go there, they gather there from all over India and even outside of India, is to bathe in the Triveni, which is the confluence of three rivers, two manifest, Ganges and Yamuna, and one unmanifest called the Saraswati, at that place, Prayag. It's called Triveni, three rivers. At the precise astrological time that's predicted. It's always in January, it's always freezing. It's in North India. I never went there, but Prabhupada actually took some devotees there twice. And so, but the main attraction is liberation. And, old people come at great difficulty, and then try to camp out, in the freezing weather with the 50 million people. They build a big city. It's like a whole city. They got their post office, they have roads, they got a lot of police there, actually the army people to keep order, I've never been there, but I don't think I'll ever be in this lifetime. So, but why are they going? To get liberation. It's so coveted. So Haridas is saying, hey, once chanting the holy name one time and you're liberated. So he challenged that. It can't be true, and if it's not true, I'll cut off your nose. Oh, this was a great offense. So the Namacharya Haridas Thakur, so everybody stood up and said, oh, get out of here. They fired him on the spot, So then they asked Haridas very humbly, can you please explain how the holy name, liberates? So he chanted this verse, which is a really far out verse, which I put into a little song, and I'll end with that. Anghak sanghadatakilang sakadudiyadeva sakalalokasya tadanidevatamelna jaladim jayajitakan mangalang hare nama. You can imagine, as soon as I read this verse, I immediately memorized it. So, then Haridas explained it. So I took the verse with the translation and from the CC, and the explanation, I put it into this little poem. So here's the basic meaning. He says, you have to go back 500 years, there's no electricity. So when the sun goes down and there's a new moon, it gets very, very dark and you can't do anything except basically just go to sleep. So he says, when the moon is invisible, withered to nil, and the sun is long gone from the sky, then an ocean of darkness envelops this world, and the timorous fear they might die. But that thick pall of gloom is at once swept away when the first signs of sunrise appear, and the dawning of day gives assurance to all that in truth there is nothing to fear. In a similar way, when illusion holds sway, and the soul has forgotten his Lord, then the darkness of ignorance covers his heart, sin and suffering are his reward. But as soon as he chants Krishna's name even once, in a manner that doesn't offend, then his ignorance flees like the darkness at dawn, and his sin and his suffering end. So there's nothing to fear, for the sun of the name has appeared with his powers divine. In your heart may that sun, benedictive for all, become fixed and eternally shine. Any questions, comments? Yes?
First of all, that was a really nice class.
Hare Krishna, go Shri Prabhupada.
Also, I wanted to say I really liked the analogy of the holy name of the Latin.
Uh-huh.
And I have two quick questions. One is, what's the number of the verse that you were talking about, the Krishna Varna?
About Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah.
I don't have it here, but I can give it this. 11th Canto, 3rd chapter.
Okay, I'll look at it. And then the other question is, how come when Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya came to deliver us, how come Lord Nityananda acts so weird? Like, what are we supposed to think? Like, we're supposed to, imitate, try to follow Lord Chaitanya's example, but here his brother's acting really weird, and he's supposed to be the most merciful.
Yes, and he is. It's like, okay, but if you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you find there are certain points where Lord Chaitanya was also, acting in a way, not exactly like Lord Nityananda, but incomprehensibly. I remember in the Adi Leela, it describes how Lord Chaitanya, I think it mentions it, how Lord Chaitanya withdrew his arms and his legs into his body. This is like unheard of ecstatic symptoms. Oh my God, like a tortoise. But then in Madhya Leela, chapter 2, is not only arms and legs, but the head. They said, oh, that's too much. It says like that. So that's not exactly the same thing. But the point is that in these higher ecstasies, it's all kinds of things go on that ordinarily wouldn't go on. And you just have to accept it. And there's a passage in the Rasa dance in the 10th canto, where Pariksit, after Lord Krishna, he invites the gopis out, and then they dance together and they go joy in the water and everything, which is totally outside of the Vedic culture, So Pariksit asks a question that, it was kind of an obvious question. Well, how is it that the definer and the enforcer of dharma and morality, the Supreme Lord, is acting in such a way against all these things, breaking the rules? So Shiva answers with an analogy. He says, what greatly powerful individuals do, they're not bound by the same rules. And he gives the example first of Lord Shiva, who drank the ocean of poison when it came. So if one should not try to drink the poison if one is not Lord Shiva. In other words, they do things that have a logic to them that is not obvious because we're bound by all of these rules. And so then he has this verse that's really important. It says, the great souls, the great powerful souls, we should follow their example when their example is in accord with their instructions. But when they're doing something else, then we should simply worship them. And there's a not follow the example. And there's a statement, I forget who made it, but it's like, I worship Lord Nityananda, even if he goes into a liquor shop, I'll still worship him. In other words, there must be some reason for it, and I don't know what it is, but I'm still going to maintain it. So there's a poem. I don't have the English memorized, but it's a beautiful 8-verse poem by Vrindavandas Thakur, who was a disciple of Nityananda and who wrote the Chaitanya Bhagavat, in which Nityananda is featured. There's whole chapters about him. Amazing pastime. When he, he wanted to be with Lord Chaitanya. So when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he was one of the devotees who followed him there was only like 5 or 6 who followed him all the way to Jagannath Puri. And he stayed with him, And finally Lord Chaitanya said, you have to go back to Bengal. You're my agent now. I can't stay there. My wife is there and everything. I can't, I have to stay in Jagannath Puri. My mother ordered me. His mother requested that. Well, she was brokenhearted because her younger son had taken sannyas and he passed away, Vishwarup. The father had died out of separation from the older son. And so then Lord Chaitanya was living with him, and the wife was there. First Lakshmi, she died, but he got remarried. So we had this tight little family, and then he goes and takes sannyas. So she's like, devastated. So there's this whole pastime at Advaita's house where she gets to cook for him, and he says, "Mother, you raised this body of mine. I'll do whatever you say." But she knew that if she asked him to give up his sannyas and come back home, it would be a great black mark on his. She didn't want that. Says, okay, you just stay in Puri, which is fairly close to Bengal, it's a few hundred miles. And so I'll get some news from you. And someday you can even visit, which he did eventually later on. So anyway, so Lord Chaitanya is in Puri, that's his headquarters, and he's doing Rath Yatra, and Lord Nityananda is with him and everything, But finally Lord Chaitanya says, you have to go back to Bengal. He said, I want to go. I want to stay with you. You have to. This is your duty. So finally he surrenders. Nityananda takes his Gopals. He has these close associates and others, and he starts going to it's the most amazing chapter. Sometime I'll read it. But it's like 600 verses long. It says Vrindavan Das just got so ecstatic writing by Nityananda, he kept the chapter going. Usually they're like 100 verses, 200, maybe 300, but 600? Anyway. So part of that chapter is about how they got back to Navadvip, to Mayapur. So maps, forget it. They just started chanting. It's just like a big party, and then people would join them. So there's a big chanting party. They would go here and go there. Finally, they'd ask directions. Oh, you're 30 miles out of the way. Go back this way. It took them how long? But so it's just chanting, and it describes how they would come to a place and stay for a while, and everyone would be empowered. They would be pulling trees. No one was sleeping or eating for 30 days. They would be pulling trees out of the ground. And then it says even children, and people would go up in the tree and they lived there for like 20 days. I mean, these are accounts. People were writing these things. So this is the Nityananda. And but like the main pastime, the root of the whole thing is this thing with Jagai Madai, where he approached someone who everyone was giving a wide berth. They were as far away from a Vaishnava as you could be. They'd been born Brahmins, but they lost it. They were drunkards, they were rapists, they were thieves, they were violent, and people would just stay away from them. So Nitya says, perfect candidates. They're perfect representatives of Kali Yuga. Let's see if... So he says, chant Hare Krishna. And Madai, one of the rogues, he got very angry. At first, so then they were Haridas was with him, and so they started chasing them. So Haridas and Nityananda are running away. Luckily, Jagai Madai was so drunk that they finally just fell down. They ended up fighting with each other, and so then they got back to Lord Chaitanya. So a few days later, they go out and there they find him again, or maybe it's the next day, I forget. And Nityananda asks him again, and this time Madai throws a piece of a pot. Broken, we'd call a shard, and it was sharp enough and it created a big gash and blood is pouring out on Nityananda. So then he asked him again. So that's no problem. He said, please chant. So he's going to throw another pot, but Jagai was sane enough or sober enough to stop Madai and said, don't do this is very bad. Some of the previous Brahminical quality came and he actually stopped Madai. So meanwhile, Haridas, others had gotten back to Lord Chaitanya, and he comes and he's furious. He's angry. He invoked the chakra because it's Krishna. And everyone can see it. Jagai Madai can certainly see it. So they were paralyzed, and so they bowed down. Jagai. So Lord Chaitanya was about to annihilate them, and Nityananda says, "No. Jagai, he saved me from the second attack." He says, "Oh, he did." So he immediately gives him love of God, and Jagai goes into ecstasy, and he's delivered. So Madai says, I get the same thing. I said, no, you have to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda, which he did, of course. And they became great devotees. And so that's indicative of the whole preaching movement. Lord Chaitanya is saving the earth, every town and village. We're the Jagais and Madais. And Lord Chaitanya is saving us and his representatives, and Nityananda also. So this, I can't recall it now, but it describes in this Ashtaka how those who don't have the vision, because he's always maddened in love of God and he's acting in this way, they don't understand that he is himself God. He is Balaram, what to speak of the devotees. So you just have to, wonder about it, and just put it into the file of some of those amazing things about Krishna consciousness that you don't understand. It's not just that, God is lying in the ocean there and emanating millions of universes. That's pretty unbelievable, according to our like. But also in the dealings of avatars and great devotees, there's some mystery. But it's all good.
Like what you said, that they're in a different category than we are, and they can act positive.
Yeah.
And we may not get why they're acting that way, but it doesn't really matter because they're not us.
And you see, if you see the arc of the pastime, that there's always some either special expression of rasa, or some way in which they're showing mercy to everybody. So it's all auspicious. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.